There's some other reason for it. This is an issue. We're all aware of it. But I work in a school, and go for it. It was just International Women's Day.
Thank you all for coming. We'll get started off with roll call. Vice President Hollihan. Present. Clerk Alec Quintero. Present. Member Olson. Here. Member Wilson. Here. And I am here. Would the students from Victoria please come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And the teachers, Robin O'Brien and Karen Burke, thank you so much for being here. Can you please come up and share with us a little bit about Odyssey of the Mind?
Yes, tonight we'd like to introduce some of our amazing students who have worked incredibly hard on the Odyssey of the Mind teams. They are either picked because they are engaged or because they worked incredibly hard on their projects in the Gardner Holt Lab. Since November, they have been meeting at lunch and after school in the Gardner Holt space to design, build, and problem solve for their competition.
Odyssey of the Mind is a competition where teams of students work together to find creative solutions to engineering and design challenges. These students were on two separate teams. We had a train team that designed a train that had to pick up 3 different cargo cars. And we had a team that had to design a mechanical trip assistant that happened to be a frog that they came up with. And tonight they are going to explain how they came up with those. They did so well, don't let me forget that. The train team finished second in regional competition, and the frog team finished fourth. And both teams are moving on to state. First up is Emilio. He will be talking about the train and how they designed it.
We designed the train by laser cutting cardboard and gluing on it, and we used popsicle sticks and rubber bands, and the rubber bands was not enough, so we used the bands to go all the way to 7 feet.
And our mechanical frog team, we have Moloch, Sander, and Aldo that's going to discuss how they design that.
We made a frog out of felt and we stitched it together. We used a laser machine to cut out the arms and the body shape. We cut a hole in the middle to put the arrow in, and there's a hole for the syringe arrow. The frog was originally created for. He never really had a syringe for a time, but once he found out about another project we had in the lab, we decided to take inspiration from that and put it inside of our frog. We also put an arrow, as Malak said, that spins in a direction. And for the tongue, we use pneumatics, and we use a syringe for it right here. And then as soon as you push the syringe, it comes out. And for what we do, we just suck it back in to make the effect like it's in.
Show the audience. Can you show me?
Yeah, sure. Oh.
Oh my god.
So wish us luck, and maybe we'll make it to national. During our spring break
Well, wish you luck.
in Moreno Valley.
All right, good luck. Thank you. Mrs. Burke, can you bring up so we can take a picture?
Dr. Patel, you can come take a picture with some Principal Victoria, Dr. Patel.
And hold your projects. Hold the projects up. Yeah. Get them by your face. Nice.
Okay, moving on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with flexibility?
Second.
Anything, Patty? Any discussion? All right, I'll call for the vote.
Great job, guys. Great job. Great job. Way to go. Way to go. Love it.
Motion carried by vote. The motion was carried by vote.
We're doing a new voting system. We're gonna vote online and it comes over there and then she'll announce the vote. Thank you, Consuelo. Did you get it? Oh, she did? Okay. Now we're moving on to approval of minutes. Do I I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 27th, 2026 and the February 10th, 2026 board meetings?
So moved.
Any discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote. That go better? Oh, you didn't get it? Resend it. Oh, too soon. Okay, are we done? No, waiting for Jennifer. Motion carried by vote. All right. During closed session, the board took unanimous action to appoint Benjamin Urigas to the position of Assistant Principal, Citrus Valley High School, effective March 16th, 2026, at step 5 of the management team salary schedule. Ben, are you here?
What was that?
Anybody here with you
I
tonight?
do, I have my wife Tommy here, and Macy, the principal.
Thank you. In closed session, the board took unanimous action to release and reassign employee number 2025-26-16, effective the 2026-27 school year. The board directed the superintendent or his designee to send out appropriate legal notices. In closed session, the board took unanimous action to release and reassign employee number 2025-26-17, effective the 2026-27 school year. The board directed the superintendent or his designee to send out appropriate legal notices. And we're moving on to presentations. Tonight we have a presentation. Kirtan, are you ready?
Good evening, board, President Redler, Superintendent Cabral, rest of the cabinet and the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to go over our second interim report for fiscal year 25-26. So the second interim report is required to be presented to the board for approval by March 15th, so we're right on time. It identifies changes to the projected budget since the first interim that was presented back in December 2025, and any changes that were any revisions based on the owner's budget that was in January 2026. It also identifies the actual unrestricted and restricted expenditures through January 31st, 2026. This is our standard chart that I always present. It's the last 5 years of our CBEDS enrollment and actual every daily attendance. As you can see, each year we have been losing students, and this year is different. Compared to last year, we lost about 182 students, and our ADA is down about 163. I just did a quick calculation, that's about $2.4 million just straight attendance related funding that we lost. This is our little chart that shows LCFM revenue, which is our unrestricted main funding that comes to the state. So in 24-25, we were at 256.3 million. This year we're at 257.4 million. That's about a $1 million increase over last year. This is our general fund. So in the first column you see our 24-25 actual. We ended with 90.6 million in fund balance. Adopted budget, we projected to start at 91.2 million and ending with 70.7 million. But when we ended the year, we actually ended at 90.6. So about 666,000 less than budget. Our projected revenue this year is 355.9 million, so significantly higher compared to the budget based on state revenues and certain things that we couldn't realize at the budget time, but we can now. And our expenditures has also gone up, 377.6 million. So our deficit this year is projected to be $21.7 million, bringing down our fund balance to $68.8 million. Any questions before I go forward? This is the breakdown of our $68.8 million fund balance. So on the restricted side, we have $50,000 revolving cash, 1.40 non-spendables, commitment, which you'll be approving thereon for $3.2 million for textbook adoption, and our standard 3% economic reserve for $11.3 million, and lottery is assigned for $5.3 million. So total is $21.3 million, and 47.5 is all restricted programs, like federal and state programs. These are some assumptions for next 2 years. For 26-27, the COLA is 2.41%. The PERS rate is projected at 26.4%. STIRS at 19.1%. The numbers you'll see in the next slide will include step and column changes, 5 to 8% increase in utilities, 10 to 15% in P&L insurance, which is our property liability insurance, and any program changes like grants and entitlements. And for 27-28, projected COLA is 3.06, PERS at 26.9, STIRS stays the same at 19.1, and the same changes step and column, utilities increase, P&L insurance, and program changes. So here's our multi-year analysis. We already went over actuals in second interim. So 26-27, we'll start at projected $68.8 million fund balance. Revenues are projected to go down a little at $352 million, and expenditures at $356 million, bringing our deficit to about $3.8 million, and fund balance to $65 million. We start 27-28 at $65 million, revenues at $358 million, the expenditure at $358 million, so deficit is only $500,000. We're hoping that it won't be a deficit surplus, and bringing our fund balance up in 2028 at $64.4 million. So there are 3 possible certifications: positive, qualified, and negative. And I'm happy to report we're recommending positive certification. That means the district can meet its financial obligation for the current year and next 2 fiscal years. Next steps will be May 2026. We'll have mayor vision from the governor. That'll dictate any changes in our budget for next year. And then in June 2026, I'll be presenting 26-27 budget that we'll be adopting in second meeting of June. Any questions?
Just thank you very much for all your hard work and your staff as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. No student trustee tonight. On to association reports. Mr. Kipperton, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, thank you.
I apologize for my voice tonight, it's been going around. So, good evening, board members and Superintendent Cabral. Tonight, I want to thank the RTA and RUSD bargaining teams for their hard work and dedication. After many months of tough negotiations, we have finally reached a tentative agreement that balances the needs of our educators with the district schools. I would also like to extend a personal thank you to this board, Superintendent Cabral, and the administrative cabinet for your support in this endeavor. I know at times it was a tough process, but the district's willingness to engage in open dialogue and to continue our shared work throughout this was appreciated. This afternoon, I was informed that members received their layoff notices for next year. While the district made great efforts to save jobs, this layoff had a disproportionate impact on Redlands Unified's counseling staff. I have had the pleasure of working with our counselors throughout my entire career. I have always believed that they are indispensable to the proper functioning of our schools. We have seen firsthand how their efforts have raised test scores, improved attendance, and even saved lives. That last statement was not an exaggeration. The counselors' impact on our students' lives cannot be overstated. I have spoken many times before this body about the increasing behavioral and safety problems that our educators face. Too often, the only readily available resource is our counselors. Their loss next year will have a tremendous detrimental impact on our schools. Because counseling has limited mandates in our contract and ed code, it has historically been the first group cut when shortages occur. This is short-sighted and must change. Before anyone is released next year, I encourage this board and cabinet to take deliberate care to preserve each position that they can. Every position saved is more than just a job preserved. It represents us meeting our student needs in real, fundamental terms. This has been a challenging year, and it's not yet done. As you plan for next year, I implore this board, prepare for the realities that we will face in the coming years. We lost ground this year in overall compensation. We lost ground in staffing and meeting the needs of our students. As a district, we need major long-term changes. We need to maintain our competitive edge in salary and benefits. We need guaranteed counseling support, especially at our elementary level. We need greater behavioral supports and options within our schools to meet our student needs. I encourage us to work together and to plan for a future where Redlands Unified is once again the shining beacon that other districts strive towards. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce, are you ready?
Good evening, President Briller, Superintendent Cabral, Cabinet, and community members. Tonight, my heart is heavy. The loss of employees across our district has been incredibly difficult. Many of our colleagues, friends are facing uncertainty, and the impact of these layoffs is being felt in our classrooms, offices, and work sites every day. Yet, despite all of this, our employees still show up to do their job. As negotiations begins to wind down, it is time for us to focus on the work ahead and the issues that continue to impact our members and student safety. For over 2 years, I have been raising concerns about PCM, Professional Crisis Management Training. Currently, our district has roughly 2,000 employees, yet only 150 employees are trained in PCM. This creates serious challenges across our schools. Because there are so few trained staff members, paraprofessionals are frequently pulled from their regular assignments to respond to other classrooms or situations where no one is trained. This increases workloads, disrupts services for students, and places an unfair burden on our small group of employees. 150 employees are PCM trained. That is a problem. Most importantly, it raises concern about student safety and staff safety. Safety training should not fall on the shoulders of only a few employees. It should be equitable, accessible, and available to more staff across the district, so that our schools are better prepared to support students in crisis. Our members are dedicated professionals who care deeply about the students they serve. They deserve the training, support, and resources necessary to do their jobs safely and effectively. As we move forward, RESPA will continue advocating for expanded PCM training and equitable support for our staff. Our students deserve safe learning environments, and our employees deserve safe working conditions. RESPA has consistently advocated for meaningful trainings across the board. What are we being offered, however, is a PowerPoint presentation. Our members deserve real hands-on training, not just slides on a screen. If we wanted to watch videos, we could log on to Keenan and complete modules on our own time. That is not what we are asking for. We are asking for practical, hands-on training that supports staff to safely support students in crisis. Training matters, safety matters, preparation matters. The district often speaks about how much they value and care about employees. If that is truly the case, then show our employees that they matter. Give them the training they deserve, give them the tools they need, and give them the support that keeps both students and staff safe. Thank you.
Thank you. We have someone here from RAPA to talk tonight. On to public hearings. Public hearing regarding the adoption of the following instructional materials for the dual language immersion kindergarten program to be implemented beginning with the 2026-2027 school year. The Hutton Mifflin Harcourt Go Math. The hearing is now open. Is there anyone who would like to comment? The hearing is now closed. The public hearing regarding the adoption of the following instructional materials for dual language immersion kindergarten program to be implemented beginning with the 2026-2027 school year. McGraw-Hill ELA Maravillas. The hearing is now open. Would anyone like to comment?
I'd like to comment.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. This is also kind of a place to go math.
You have 3 minutes, so.
I have 3? Okay, perfect, thank you so much. Awesome. So the big thing is both of these are materials that we're bringing into the district, and I'm glad we're updating our curriculum, making it accurate, but I do have a lot of concerns over the staffing that's going to be responsible for overseeing that these materials stay in good condition, and that these materials are able to see their way through the future with our students. I know when we don't have library technicians, we don't get materials returned. That's a cost to our taxpayers, that's a cost to the district, and I'm worried about the increased costs of that with library technicians being cut. Additionally, I also am very concerned about the fact, well, I love dual language immersion. I think this is a great curriculum that you are adopting. I've worked at dual language immersion schools myself, and I love dual language immersion. I've seen the power of dual language immersion and the community that it can build. And yet, you need to be able to form a community. I'm worried we're going to be spending a lot of money investing into McKinley for dual language immersion, and we're not going to do it right, and we're not going to do it in a way that embraces culture. Literally, when I was looking, culture is part of dual language immersion. Look it up, chuckle in the back of the room. On top of that, basically, like I was saying, dual language is part of the structure of a dual language immersion program is immersing one in culture and the language. And we already have policies on the docket that have already passed that prohibit flags. The students, and I know there's loopholes, I guess, for using it for curriculum purposes, but we're inviting students that are going to be coming from other countries. Why do we have to have a loophole? What about when they move up in education? That's ridiculous that they can't see their own flags on their own campuses. On top of that, it's also ridiculous that we're coming for all of the other elements of culture that also fall under that. I mean, even being LGBTQIA is culture, and Candy, this go around, she actually just posted a video where she was targeting books. And so I'm worried that with culture in this book as well, she might take offense to it, because quite frankly, the book that she was targeting is called Pride Month. She posted it on her social media, and I do think this is relevant because it's our board member that's up here, and it's about our curriculum and what's in our libraries. And she actually posted a video of her talking about this book that was approved for libraries. You could only buy it from library vendors. I checked. I work in a library. I can find that out. And she was taking issue with all of the educational terms in that book. And they were purely educational. There was no sex, no nothing. It was purely grade appropriate. And so I'm worried that she might look at some of the other elements of culture and other things in this material and take issue with it. And also I'm worried that that bias might reflect on how this program is implemented. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Hearing is now closed. Now on to public participation. The Board of Education values the perspectives and participation of our community members. Public comment provides an important opportunity for individuals to share their view on district matters. The board encourages comments, feedback, and input from all voices in the community, including those who may have differing opinions and perspectives. The California Office of the Attorney General asked us to share that in their view, matters pertaining to Specific identifiable students or any group of students should remain private to the extent possible. If you have a complaint about an employee or a student matter, please utilize the appropriate complaint procedure. Contact Dr. Rudy Wilson, Assistant Superintendent of Compliance, who can assist you with filing any such complaint. As a reminder, not all speech is free from consequences. And since this is a board's meeting in public, where minors may be present, we encourage all participants to conduct themselves in a civilized, non-threatening manner. Thank you for your cooperation and for contributing to a civil and student-focused discussion. Members of the public may address the board on matters within its jurisdiction by submitting a completed registration card to the clerk or designated staff member prior to the start of public comment on agenda items. When called, speakers may proceed to the podium, state their name and trustee area, and speak for the allotted time. The amount of time will be announced by the board president before the first speaker begins and will not exceed 3 minutes. Consuelo, how many speakers do
We have 38 total items being spoken on.
So we'll allow 2 minutes per person. All right, call the first.
Rachel Ugley, followed by Valerie Davis and Dale Room. They all have one item.
Hi, I'm Rachel Euclid, District 1.
Welcome.
I'm sorry?
I said welcome, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. And I'm one to sign up for both 18A and B, so I'd like to have my 4 minutes for that, because basically they're the same thing.
Oh, that's one item. You're speaking to one item.
On 18A and 18B.
They're subsets of the same item. They're both about 6115, so we're considering it one item, one agenda item to be spoken about.
At my age, I have a hard time hearing. How many, can I speak on one or the other? Is that what you're saying?
You can do both, but it's a combined 2 minutes.
Okay. What I want to speak about is the agreement between the RESPA and the RTA. Basically, this board has a critical decision to make. Do they want to go ahead and teach and focus on the academics, or do they want to go ahead and basically handle a situation like a job, which is the more repetitive, something is seen, which is basically basic grassroots marketing. The teacher has their own desk, and now they're separating that from the wall in the classroom, and that's a compromise. What do the kids see? They see the teacher, the desk. That's influencing them the same way the TV and all the corporations market. Repetition is there. That's how they do when now the kids want blue, now they want Lego, now they want Barbie. That is not something that teachers should be focusing on. They should be focusing on the education, what they're there to teach. And we don't need to have the board make a decision of trying to influence the innocent minds. That belongs to the parents. I understand a lot of parents don't want to deal with it, but it's still a responsibility. They brought the children into the world. It does not belong to a school board or a teacher that can strongly influence them.
Thank you, Rachel. Welcome, Valerie.
Hi, thank you. So I was talking about 18A and B. Teachers hold authority in the classroom, and that authority carries responsibility. When a teacher places any social or political advocacy flag on their desk in clear view of students, it sends a message about what viewpoints are expected or approved in that classroom. Students know the teacher controls grades, discipline, and the learning environment. Because of that dynamic, visible advocacy, symbols can create pressure on students to appear to agree with a particular social position, even when their beliefs or family values differ. In most private sector and government workplaces, employees are not allowed to display movement posters or flags in public-facing workspaces. These rules exist to keep environments professional and neutral for everyone who walks in the door, and our classrooms should follow that same standard. Pride flags are widely recognized as symbols promoting specific views about sexuality and gender. When those symbols are displayed by teachers in the classroom, some students and staff may feel embarrassed, uncomfortable, or unwilling to express disagreement for fear of being labeled or judged. No student should feel pressured or humiliated because they hold a different viewpoint. Public schools should focus on education, not the promotion of social agendas. I urge the board to adopt a clear policy prohibiting teachers from displaying advocacy flags or similar symbols on their desks, so that our classrooms remain neutral, professional learning environments that respect the beliefs of all families. I bet if Christian, pro-life teachers would start placing their flags in the classroom, the viewpoint on this would change pretty quickly. What is being called inclusion might then start to be criticized as political or religious messaging.
Thank you, Valerie.
Good evening, board. I'd like to speak on agenda items A and B, and I also want to urge the board to reject the agreements that were negotiated because it undermines the intent and the purpose of the board policy 6115, which is to stop teachers from pushing their sexual preferences, their gender ideology, or other social agendas on the students. This propaganda has no place in the classrooms. It has no educational value. Now, a couple of things I would agree with the previous speaker on, but I want to add a few additional things. You know, we have a thing called the Federal Hatch Act for all federal employees, and this it should be carried over even to the school district level, where you're not allowed to push your political and social agendas while you're at work. Okay, we don't have total freedom of speech when you're employed by an employer. You have freedom of speech when you leave work, but not during the time that you are at work, especially when you have a desk that is a public workspace area where you're interacting with customers. In our case, the customers are the students and the parents. We need to respect their values and their beliefs. So number one rule of business is don't piss off your customers. And this is going to drive more parents and students out of the public school system if you continue to push these social agendas in the classrooms by allowing them to have them on their desk. Also, I want to bring up another important point, which is that in many ways, the gay pride flag represents not just a social agenda, but it is a sexual agenda that's being pushed. And this is a form of sexual harassment. Okay? No, this is a form of sexual harassment for people who are straight or cisgender. And I would refer this to Dr. Wilson because the parents are going to start filing Title IX complaints. Okay? And then we also have the issue of what if a parent opts their children out of this material? Okay? This is going to create chaos.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
We have Douglas Hauser with 1 item, Joshua Hall with 1 item, and Erica Grossman with 3 items.
Hello, Douglas Hauser, thank you for the opportunity. I completely agree with what was said earlier. I understand that there's a school district that allows teachers to wear small pins to express their viewpoint, and that should be acceptable. However, if the board decides that they're going to allow the desk to be used as a point of propaganda, I would at least ask that the scope of the propaganda be minimized. For example, we could easily, if you allow the teacher to put a flag on their desk, they could easily have a giant flagpole with a huge flag on it, coupled with, a cube with the signs on it, whatever, and a runner hanging over the front of the desk. I would suggest that a flag of this size or smaller be allowed. You can all see it very clearly, right, and what it represents. So this is 5 inches by 3 inches or smaller, and to limit it to 1 flag or 1 representation at a time. So a teacher doesn't have a whole desk full of, of their own not want to educate, they wish to indoctrinate. And this is totally inappropriate for the classroom. The students are a captive audience, and so if you're going to allow some representation on the desk, though I would prefer not, I would suggest one flag at most, one symbol at most. They can change it from day to day, week to week, whatever they want, but only one at a time, and smaller than 5 inches by 3 inches on the desk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Joshua.
In relation to 18A and B, I want to say that during COVID, teachers and school administrators and faculty uploaded videos of themselves talking about how they introduced, male teachers and stuff introduced their boyfriends, female teachers introduced their girlfriends to their classrooms. They talk about what they did in the bedroom and stuff like that. And loads of TikTok, the creator got doxxed for posting what teachers and school staff and faculty were posting onto Instagram. She posted it to loads of TikTok, and so I just want to say that teachers and school administrators and staff who insist on displaying the LGBTQ pride flag on their desk or on their classroom wall should be forced to retire and put on a sex offenders list. No one cares who you sleep with or where you put your genitalia as long as you keep it private, but don't make it public, and if you insist on making it public, that is a sex crime, even if it's just to like adults who are not consenting. Like, I'm not consenting to what they want to advocate, so they should not be allowed to do that. Schools are for education purposes only, and if teachers insist on indoctrinating as opposed to educating, parents and guardians are going to pull their kids out of school, and we're going to continue to see schools shrinking in favor of like homeschooling and private schooling, but even private schooling is not immune. Also, I want to say that Gen Z is the first generation to be dumber than the previous generations, and the indoctrination of LGBTQ plus culture and ideology in the classroom is a big contributor to that.
Thank you, Joshua. Welcome, Erica.
17A, 17B, and 16J. I'm Erica Grossman from Area 2. This is regarding the staff personal items. It's been a complete waste of time and resources for the school board to attempt to take away teachers' freedom of speech. We all remember that just last year, Jeanette made a comment that became unforgettable, that for some people, Nazi symbol is belief. When I speak with others, they don't remember your name, but they remember you as the school board that said the Nazi symbol is a belief. Members of my family are of Jewish descent, and that symbol is frightening. It is a symbol that was used to justify the murder of millions of people. I'm not Jewish myself, but seeing that symbol still terrifies me to my core. To compare a hate symbol like that to the pride flag, which represents living people, is deeply offensive and unacceptable. It is ridiculous to suggest that having a pride flag on teacher's desk causes any harm, other than possibly making people who already feel hatred towards the LGBTQ plus community, like the three of you, uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Another one. So this is 16J. I'm pleased that the district acknowledged the importance of mental health, including substance abuse as a mental health issue that requires far more serious attention than simply holding Red Ribbon Week. I believe this policy can significantly improve students' well-being on campus, their academic success, and attendance. That said, it is deeply concerning that the district is laying off school counselors, professionals who know students well and work closely with them every day. I personally witnessed students seeking out counselors when they are experiencing emotional distress. By removing these vital support figures, the district is taking away one of the most important resources students have. This does not make sense while the district is simultaneously addressing the need for mental health support for students. I don't understand why cultural competency training related to LGBTQ+ students is limited to staff starting grades 7 and up. I was at an elementary school recently where a third grade student was shouting homophobic slur, and no adult intervened or corrected the behavior until I stepped in. Can you imagine how behavior like that would affect the LGBTQ+ students? All students, regardless of age, deserve to be protected and supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Next, we have Eric Fernando with 2 items, followed by Peter Hall with 1 item, and Lawrence Hebron with 1 item.
Welcome, Erin.
Alright, Aaron Fernando, Area 2. So my first item, I want to voice my support for the mental health policy you're considering today. It's nice to see a simple, common sense policy being proposed. It affirms the position that parents should be notified of and give approval to their kids receiving mental health services, but still allows the mental health professional to use their discretion on whether that would be inappropriate or detrimental to the student's well-being. That should sound reasonable to everyone here. No one is being forced to exclude parents. In fact, the primary goal is to include parents. But if it wouldn't be in the student's best interest, then the mental health professional has the option to delay notifying the parent while meticulously documenting their reasoning and contacting appropriate agencies if necessary. So once again, kudos. It's nice to see common sense winning for once. All right, and my second item, I just wanted to say I support you approving the agreement between the RUSD and RTA regarding their ceremonies and observations policies. It's the least the board can do to make it right for their teachers after passing a disastrous, poorly thought out policy. Regarding some arguments against this agreement, I just want to point out that some viewpoints absolutely should be shamed. A pride flag absolutely should let students know that bullying LGBTQ students in the guise of just expressing their opinions is not allowed. A sign saying everyone is welcome here will actually offend some people who want to exclude people, such as anti-Semites, and I said, good, offend the anti-Semites. They should be afraid to voice their closely held beliefs in the classroom. Just because the horror beliefs happen to be mainstream Republican talking points doesn't suddenly make them neutral. And I hope all the snowflakes melt down because of my colors.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Peter Hall.
Welcome, Peter.
I'm here to talk about 18A and B. One of the people that I associate with already kind of touched on this when she's talked about how if a teacher or a staff member put up a pro-life signage on their desk or whatever, how people would complain about that, and the policy would go from talking about inclusion to talking about how some kinds of inclusion should not be allowed because it's offensive to people. But we all know that this policy proposal came into effect as a workaround to the ban of pride flags on school property. So as a compromise, you're going to let teachers and staff put the pride flag on their desks and stuff. Well, other people could put other flags and other signs on their desk, and a bunch of people might not be happy about that too. Somebody could put the Israeli flag on their desk or on the wall behind their desk, and a bunch of people might not like that because of Israel waging their war against Palestine and Iran. Some people might put the Iranian flag on their desk. Some people might put the ISIS flag on their desk, or Hezbollah. Some people might put any type of flag or banner on their desk, like the Confederate flag or the Nazi flag. That was mentioned a couple minutes ago. Somebody could use this policy as their justification for putting something up like the Confederate flag or the Nazi flag and say, hey, I'm allowed to do this because of this policy, and it's also part of my culture. The Confederate flag is still considered to be a legitimate aspect of American culture. Heritage, not hate. The other side might say hate more than heritage. I know they would. So this is just a stupid policy. Don't allow it for anybody. This the school should not allow teachers to commercialize their political or beliefs or whatever
in front of students. Thank you, Peter.
First, for clarification, I had submitted 2 requests. You mentioned I had 1.
I only see the agenda item regarding the flag policy negotiation.
Yes, the flag policy and also about the referring to the layoffs.
What item was that on the agenda?
I think it referred to item 17.
You can talk about that in public comment because there is no item regarding layoffs on this agenda.
Okay, just to be clear. All right. Good evening, my name is Lawrence Hebron. I live in Area 3 of the Redlands School District. After a long and acrimonious debate about flag policy, I understand that a negotiated settlement with the teachers has allowed those teachers to keep many of the same flags and banners that had been forbidden to remain in the classroom as long as they stay on the teacher's personal workspace, that is, their desks. Well, doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of the flag policy? Of course it does. But that's not the matter I want to address at this moment. I want to question the professionalism of those teachers who think it is appropriate to proclaim their personal opinions in the classroom, especially when those personal opinions often offend the very people who are paying for that classroom and that teacher's salary. That is not what a teacher is paid to do. They are paid to provide instruction in the basic skills necessary for their students to be able to function successfully as an adult. They are not paid to take advantage of the classroom and a long-term relationship with the students in order to indoctrinate those students with the teacher's personal ideology. And I don't care which side of the issue you're on, pro-life, pro-choice, gay or straight, MAGA or Marxist, Christian, Jewish, Islamic, atheist, or other. These areas are the prerogatives of the parents. It is profoundly inappropriate and unprofessional for teachers to do this. And if they don't have enough sense to realize this on their own, then they probably don't have enough sense to do this job, because this amounts to ideological abuse. Ideological abuse. If the school board cannot conjure a better solution than the current negotiated one, then maybe the teachers themselves need to rise up and start policing their own, because these unprofessional members of the trade are embarrassing that trade and all who practice it. They also are driving disgruntled parents to private schools and homeschooling, which jeopardize...
Thank you, Lawrence.
Items, followed by Valerie Tabor with 3 items, and Mark Laird with 14 items.
Welcome, Catherine. Welcome. Good evening, board. Kate Appleby from Area 4. My first item is Business Services Consent Item 13J. This is the Memorandum of Understanding with Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. I read through the entire thing. I just have a question, hoping someone can get back to me with it. In Exhibit C, it lists the AJCC Partner Services chart. It lists at the bottom of that chart all the districts that they currently work with. RUSD is listed. However, on the available services, RUSD is not listed as receiving any of those services. So I'm a little confused about, one, why we're not listed. I'm assuming it might be because we haven't signed this yet, but it seems weird that they would put RUSD listed. The whole thing's confusing. But again, it's buried deep in this MOU. Additionally, what services will our students be receiving? Like, if we're not even on the services list, it's hard for me to know what services our students are going to be receiving. Again, just a question on that one. My next 2 items are 16I and 16J. So the board policy and the administrative regulation for mental health. First up, on the policy in paragraph 10, it is at the end of the very first page. It states that all certificated employees serving students in grades 7 to 12 will participate in at least 1 hour of cultural competency training to support lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning individuals as other differences. And I was just wondering if this was the state mandated PRISM training that was supposed to start this year, and I don't actually know if any local district has done it. The training is provided by the California Department of Education and can be readily found on their website. And then to the administrative regulation under Section 5, Protocols for High-Risk Pupil Groups, there is the following paragraph. The district staff who oversees the mental and behavioral needs of students is responsible for coordinating implementation of these group-specific referral protocols. In collaboration with the Director of Special Education, Foster Youth Liaison, Homeless Liaison, and School Site Administrators. 2 paragraphs down, it talks about collaboration with school-employed mental health professionals, county mental health agencies, and community organizations at the school site on the day-to-day. Do you know who that person is? Do you know who those people are? It's the counselors you just cut.
Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you. So my first item is my first item is going to be talking about the mental health policies. Similar to what Ms. Appleby just brought up, I am curious about what does cultural competency look like, especially when you are obligated to have specific referral processes for these vulnerable populations. Are you going to have culturally appropriate processes, especially for our queer students, given the way that y'all treat them currently? So I would just like to bring that to your attention and hope that you will actually have experts in the field come in and tell you what does cultural competency look like, because there is a high crossover with LGBTQ youth and our homeless and foster youth. So they are extremely vulnerable population, and they do need culturally competent care, as well as the rest of them, obviously. If they need counseling, they need culturally competent care, regardless of whether they're queer or not. My second point, because that's the end of my first one, is regarding the Bridges grant. I just wanted to voice my appreciation and encouragement that you are looking for grants to support our students. I am curious about how you are going to be staffing the grant. If you are making all of these changes and you are using this grant to provide wellness centers at 3 sites, what does it actually look like to staff them? Because you just cut our counselors. So I'm just wondering how you're actually going to do that. Is that for academic case carriers? Is there somebody else that's going to be staffed there? Because I think it would be a real shame to use this grant, this free money, and have no one to staff it now that you've upgraded the facilities. So just want to put that on your radar too. My last point has to do with, of course, our favorite topic tonight, the flag policy. Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired? I'm tired. I'm tired of talking about these damn flags. And we told you it was a waste of time. We told you it was a waste of time. And yet you wanted to push it through anyways. Are you enjoying fighting with the union? Do you enjoy it? I'm not. I think this is a waste of time. I think you should be spending your time as our representatives figuring out what the hell's happening with our money. I think you should be looking in how to reduce the rifts. I think you should be focusing on things that actually matter, like literacy and math and chronic absenteeism and suspension rates. Not whatever this is. So, since we know that the flags are really just it's the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, even if you decide that you want to keep fighting, there will be pins, there will be posters, there will be things that are not flags. Can we be done with this? It's just a waste of all of our times. So please, pass this resolution, keep the dang flags. Thanks. Thank you.
about is 13A. I'm noticing Measure D on this. Remember, we voted on Measure D, Michelle, and I'm not very impressed thus far with how this year has gone since I voted for Measure D. Our kids need it. I know our kids need it. But right now, with the financial mismanagement in this district that has become very public, under your leadership, I think selling something that, even though it's as needed as Measure D is right here, we can see how many projects it's doing right now. Like, half of this list is Measure D. And right now, the public is not viewing us favorably. Yeah, I'm not viewing, that's right. I don't know who you're talking to, Jeanette. My neighbors are not viewing y'all favorably. My neighbors that will remind you are in Michelle's area. She's up for re-election. Nobody that I've talked to is viewing this district favorably. And I know there's some people, they're on the fringes, y'all. You need to go meet people out in the real world. Because I'm telling you right now, $47,950 for construction at McKinley. And the whole reason I can tell you why you're doing that is so that way you can make your DLI school successful, because it needs to transition into a TK through 8 to make that a thing. And if you fail, like I've told you, you are likely going to fail at making DLI successful under current policies. If you fail at making it successful, that's $47,950 that we spent, and not all of it's going to be wasted, but come on. And the fact that there's this many items on the agenda tonight for repair means that this is pushed off to the point where our students weren't safe. I saw moldy tiles that made me vote for Measure B. Like, mold in a workplace, toxic, literally. And lots of other things that made me vote for Measure D. But I can tell you right now, the public perception of this board and of this school district is not very pleasant. And you know what? It's time for you to start recognizing that, Michelle. Now for 13B, like I was saying, this is a lot of items. We got 1, 2, 3, it's like at least 6 items just for repair. Like, I don't know, I'm like, there's a whole bunch of repair projects on here. And it's because we postponed maintenance that should have been done years ago. And I get it, there were financial issues, right? But that's also why you come to your taxpayers. And that's why we voted yes. And if those were issues that kept getting put off, I want to know, I've seen it before in districts where, like I said, moldy tiles. I've seen people go out on leave of absence for that, while paid by the district, and literally like claim a whole bunch of money, sue y'all. Is that part of the settlements that we've got going on? Is it the fact that our campuses are literally falling apart under your guys' watch? I'd like transparency on that. Anyways, I'll be honest with you, I was just at a conference today. I'm tired. I know all of y'all are like, ooh, 13 or whatever, 16 cards. Y'all, I don't want to be here. I'm tired. I do want to be here. I care about all of, like this. This is important. I'm tired. It's been a long work day. Okay, 13H. Well, 13H. H. What is it? Okay, we're talking about Williams Act. Yeah, I'm very proud. Thank you, Patty, for getting back to me. I had asked for what the results of the December Williams Act finding was, and fortunately, this go around, we had no results. You had library staff this go around. You are not going to have no results next year, especially when students don't return their texts, don't return their materials, damage those materials, and then there's nobody to inventory those materials. Who does that? Your library media technicians, the textbook clerk at the high school that you're laying off. Yeah, she does that, or he does that, or whoever it is that's there does that. I wish I knew that. It's probably pretty cool. And I'm really worried that next year, when Williams comes around, we're not going to do this well. And 1, that's because of student success. 2, that's because that's a very expensive thing to not do well on, is Williams compliance. They will ensure you are compliant, and they will keep tracking you down every year to make sure that you are compliant. And so I'm urging you, you need to look into what is the cost of library staff versus the cost of getting out of compliance with the Williams Act. Have you done that calculation? I'm very worried that with no library staff to look over our instructional materials, make sure they're in good condition, make sure they're ordered, who else on campus is going to do that? And if you tell me one of the many, many other people that's already taken on more job responsibilities because y'all can't get it together, then that's ridiculous. Like, that's not a priority for them. Assistant principal? Oh wait, we've laid off most of those. Other assistant principal, they're not busy doing the other duties that the other assistant principal is helping with. Principal, they don't got time. I genuinely want to know who's going to be ordering materials for your schools. How are you going to maintain Williams Act compliance? Any answers? No. Okay, let's see. You can start my time, don't worry. I know I'm like coming in time. Okay, let's see. Okay, donations. I didn't even read through the list of donations, but I'm sure most of them were laid off. A lot of them. And also, even if they got a thank you this go around, RTA was just up here saying that y'all undermined there was some compromise here on negotiations, but he said it himself. Cost of living did not make the advances it needed to this go around. That means next go around it better, or you're losing qualified educators from this district. And right now, with the way costs are going, lawsuits, other things, I'm not seeing a future where right now we can keep the staffing that we need to keep, and I'm really worried about it. Like, genuinely, Michelle, I'm worried. And I know, you think that I'm just up here half the time just wasting my breath so that way I can make you mad. No, I do it because I care about kids. That's why I'm here. Shocker, I'm an educator that cares about kids. And no, I'm not here to indoctrinate kids. I'm not here to do any of these things these other weirdos that have sexualized children are claiming that we're here to do. I'm here to support my students regardless of who they are, meet them where they're at, and support them every step of the way. I wish I could say the same about this board. And like I said, right now, a thank you card's nice. A paycheck is what pays the bills. Thank you cards aren't going to keep your staff. Get it together. Alright, now, 5. K, what's it got? K. Congratulations, Jenny Nelson, new payroll manager, but I'd like her to calculate for me how much overtime we've spent, especially on that flag policy that Val was just talking about. Like we said, it wasn't going to be a success. Truly, we are basically at the point now where my desk would be just fine, and I'm happy about that in Redlands because it should have been. That's my culture. I should be able to represent my culture in my own desk. And many people are up here being like, oh my god, they're sexualizing the children. You're sexualizing the children. A boy handed me a little sweatband with Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants on it in 1st grade. I had no idea what sex was. It's love. I felt, ooh, warm feeling inside. I have a crush. And anyone that's worked with kindergartners, 1st graders, how many of them walk around, oh, that's my girlfriend, oh, that's my boyfriend? We correct behavior, right? But people are joking because it's true, literally, work with the kids. We're not sexualizing the children. Okay, we're not. I don't know where or what any of the public is watching or hearing in order to come to that conclusion. That's not something that's happening. Okay? But what I am seeing is a board that's constantly passing policies that go against my own culture, and a board that has inferred that my flag is of only sexual nature rather than of culture. Even candy, like I said, that library, let's go back to that. I wish that I could have had it here today. If I could have gone to Barnes & Noble and bought it, girl, I would have. But guess what? I had to make sure that it was transferred from San Diego through a public library because it's only available within the library setting because it's a material that's appropriate for libraries. Yeah, and when I looked it up, had reviews, met Tidal Wave best qualities, all the things, and was grade appropriate, girl. So that felt like a clear target to me when you were saying that that was all about sexualization rather than people who love other people. Alright, that was very passionate. Oh, and congrats, Shannon. L. Let's see. And you can leave it at any time if you don't want to hear me, crowd. Thank you. Approve. Importance. Okay, we'll pass that one. I don't know why I skipped it. Sorry about that. Now let's go down to. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember why the last one I had it circled too, but I'll just combine them, element them together. So basically, I'm seeing board payment reports, and I wanted to remind the public that the board voted to increase their salary by $1,400 a month. Multiply that by whoever's on board. Think about how much that's coming out of taxpayer dollars. You now make $1,900 a month. Most board members that I know make about $400. What's up with that? Like I said, I'm paying attention and I'm very, very concerned about the financial integrity of our district, and for you to be laying off essential staff, nurses, counselors, all the things, while giving yourself $1,400 a month. What in the world is going on? And I'm gonna get to wellness centers in a moment. I know y'all normally like to tune me out. Yeah, I opened the wellness centers in my district. You should be listening to me for those parts, because I got a lot of feedback for you. And one of the things that I can tell you is, if we can't afford to pay for counselors, we can't afford a wellness center. You're gonna have a room with underqualified staff, because any of those risk protocols that y'all had in that little mental health thing, yeah, those require counselors or administrators. You cannot have a wellness aide do it. How do I know I was a wellness aide? And you know what? There were times where we didn't have appropriate staffing, and it put me in some very compromising positions that honestly, I wouldn't want y'all opened up to liability. It's not a smart move. So, maybe next go around, don't vote to increase your salary when we're facing such budget shortfalls. It's really not a good look. Alright, 14A. 14A, what's this one? Oh, it's a financial report, yeah. Once again, layoffs of all of our counselors and support staff when, the budget said that we actually were certified as positive, and that we could afford to pay for the next 3 years worth of, or was it 2? I'm sorry. Don't misquote me, look it up. However many years worth of that stuff, right? Okay, but, reframing. So basically with this, what I wanted to say, I'm sorry, I'm really tired as you can tell, I don't have my normal sense, is that I'm really, really worried for our students when all of these positions are getting cut, and I don't have a solution. But I know that y'all should be looking into some public grants, and I'm happy just to go on the center one. There's some ways, and I'll go into that we can make that revenue generating for the district. It's really important that you do that, because we need more revenue generating opportunities. The other piece of it though is we need to be looking at revenue generating opportunities everywhere. One of the reasons within my own district was costs are going up, inflation, right? Okay, we need to bring costs down through the grant funded ways that we can. We need solar panels, we need EV chargers, which by the way, if you put EV chargers in your high school campus through grant funding, it's basically free money, and you're gonna make daily income for every student or staff that goes there. Why are we not looking into these creative problem solving things? And we're just up here humming and hawing about culture wars. Solve the budget issues. Don't solve culture wars, solve the budget issues. People are losing their jobs. It's embarrassing. So please, look into some revenue generating opportunities. I don't care what they are. Have a carnival at your high school. Rent out the gym. I don't care what it is. Look into some revenue generating opportunities. Save some jobs. Get it together. Alright, okay, general fund. You know what? I feel like I touched on what I need to touch on with that one, so I'm not even gonna take that time. Let's talk about wellness centers. Yeah, I remember I said that I opened wellness centers. They got the grant funding, they didn't set them up appropriately, and they ended up having to lay off half of the department due to budget shortfalls while I was working in it. And honestly, it was pretty hard. And I'll be frank with you, the other piece too, and they worked to get us the staffing we needed, but in the beginning I was put into some compromising situations. There was no counselor on the day that my student needed to go to the Merrill Center for mental health evaluation. And I was the only one, not the principal, not the administrator. Nobody else other than the counselor and myself had a personal relationship with that student. And I literally had to stand, and this is something that, this is not something you should be expecting of your wellness aides. It's out of their job scope. They shouldn't be doing this, right? But it's just a reality of what might happen if you have no counselors. And so, I was standing on a cul-de-sac, and literally there was a man with his vehicle from the government, social services, to take the student to the Merrill Center, myself, and the student was looking around, literally fight or flight, looking like they wanted to run away. And I told them, I said, baby, wherever you go, look at my legs, look at your legs, I'm gonna find you, and I'm gonna make sure that we're where we need to be. And then it was, oh, I'm too big to fit in the car. So I sat down in that car, and I said, baby, if my long self can fit in the car, you can fit in the car, let's go. I went home, and I cried. The most I've ever cried. I went home early that day because it was too much for me, because I'm not trained to do the work that a counselor should do. And now you're gonna ask that of your wellness aides that you're gonna have in your district, because you're not gonna have staffing. And that's shame. Shame on you, and it's liability. So please, don't just build these fancy rooms with beanbags. It's the people that make a wellness center a wellness center. Make sure it has appropriate staffing. Neuropsychology care. Like I said, mental health for me is a very big thing. And I've seen the differences this type of care has had for my students, so I'm grateful to see it on our agenda tonight. So, I know I don't give thanks to the board very often. Thank you for that. But like I said, I am still very worried about our students receiving the appropriate care under current staffing conditions, even with this neuropsychology agreement. And so I really urge that one of the ways through the Child, Youth, and Behavioral Initiative that my district was able to make things revenue generating was by making services billable. That took extra counselors though. It took interns, it took support services, it took a whole team, y'all. But soon that department will be revenue generating, able to bill for services through private medical insurance. That's a great thing. That's something that we could see happen here. As you're building your wellness centers though, I encourage you don't make the same mistakes that we made. You need to make sure you have a confidential locking space where you're gonna have to seek extra funding. It won't meet counseling needs, it won't meet child behavioral health initiative needs. Please make sure that happens for the kids. You also need to make sure that you have the appropriate staffing that is needed. And so, I think I've spoken enough on that. Please also address that. Now, I think every teacher or an educated professional, educator in the room with me, when they hear the word PLC, wants to cringe at this point in time. I'm gonna be honest with you, PLCs have been drilled up the wazoo, and in a time of budget shortfall, I wish I had the number right now. I remember when I was looking through the agenda at home, my jaw dropped at the amount of money that we spent on this out-of-state conference in Arizona to teach our teachers and district staff. Honestly, I wonder how many were district staff versus frontline teachers. Professional learning curriculums. Those happen here. We are the professional learning curriculums. And yes, I understand every now and then we need to go seek out professional advice. But the amount of money that we spent on this, I really want, and I don't know enough information, but I want to know if it was worth the investment. Because it was a decent amount of money in a time when we need to be cutting things. Things like out-of-state travel, things like hotel expenses, things like conferences, and I hate to say it, I am the first one to sign up for everything in professional development. Heck, I was just at a conference today, right? Learned a lot, lots of great resources and things to bring back to my students. But I'm telling you, if we're really truly not able to afford basic staffing, and I know that y'all don't consider it basic, but to me in this day and age with our children in crisis, like y'all have talked about, like we have a youth mental health crisis. I'm not making this up, all the experts agree, right? The basic staffing that y'all are trying to cut back to is not gonna meet the needs of today's kids. It might have met the needs of previous kids, but under full inclusion, post-COVID world, all these new variables, this is not gonna work out. And I'm really worried about the fact that we're gonna lose some students. Because we're not cutting budget where it needs to be cut on our board member salaries, on our out-of-state travel. We're cutting our nurses. That's pretty sad. Alright. H. Okay, McGraw-Hill. Yeah, our kids are struggling a lot with math, and so I think it's important that we adopt some curriculum. I don't want them to go through what I went through when I was a student, where I'm not kidding you, in my district they didn't adopt new history textbooks for so long that George W. Bush was president, all the way through when I graduated. Like literally, the kids never saw Obama in their own textbook. And I know some of y'all are happy about that, not up here, but that's kind of sad. And so I'm happy to see that we're putting that investment in our textbooks. The one thing that will happen if we don't invest in our textbooks is our textbooks are going to get out of date. and then we're gonna have to buy copies of books that are backward, and that's a lot of money to do. When your books go out of print, you have to, because Williams Act compliance, you have to literally scrounge for the last copies available at other schools that are getting rid of the curriculum and pay markup for that material. So I'm really proud of you guys for finally adopting some new math curriculum. But like I've mentioned, I'm worried that we're going to spend all this money on new curriculum, and we're not going to be able to keep it because we don't have staffing to ensure that it's kept in good condition, that it's returned in a timely and appropriate manner. And especially as the students transition up through our schools, from school site to school site. I know that I work with my library team all the time to make sure that those materials are returned to those school sites. That's taxpayer dollars. That's everything to me. I'm gonna make sure that I treat that with respect, because that's why I have a job, right? And so I do think, even though you guys are seeing money in library media technicians and cutting the positions, I'm thinking in curriculum it's going to end up costing you guys a lot more than you're factoring in, and I'm worried about it. So please look into it. I feel like I've already talked enough on the dual language immersion one, so I won't take that time. The mental health one, thank you. Thank you for some of it. I am impressed about when student need and student safety is of concern, that takes precedence, so thank you. But like I said, a mental health policy with no staffing is a recipe for liability and disaster, because what do you do when those designated people on this mental health list right there? People get sick, people go to conferences. Sometimes, when budgets get short, people have to split school sites. I know I had to when they cut my wellness program in half. I went from being a full-time employee at one school site to being a full-time employee working at 2 school sites. And oh my God, the burnout from that was crazy, right? And so please, make sure that we're looking into where we can tweak things. And you know, you guys keep saying we can't tweak things. There's things that we can tweak. Or there's revenue generating opportunities we can seek. We're just not seeking them or tweaking them. And I'm bringing that to y'all, because truly, we need to start seeing something, or we're gonna see year after year after year of these cuts and things that are hurting our kids. Also, with regard to our mental health policy, like I mentioned, like Val mentioned earlier, I do have I want some clarification on like the cultural side of it. I know in some cultures, my lifestyle is not okay. I've lived that. I know that there's many people in this room that have claimed that they're being abused. I've literally been and felt unsafe many times in my life for who I am, even at these meetings. I've been followed home on the train, right? And so that's why we need to make sure our students feel safe. Let's make sure that happens. All right. 18A, flags. You know, like I said, my flag is my culture. I know some people view my flag to represent sex. That flag represented me before I knew what sex was. It's always represented me. And for you guys to infer, and the audience to infer otherwise, every time it happens, it really hurts me. And then I think about what our kids think when they see our leaders up here making those comments. I can tell you when I worked in wellness, most of the students in crisis that I worked with were LGBTQIA. Most, if not all. Or a combination of McKinney-Vento foster youth and LGBTQIA. I'm telling you, if I did the data off of, in confidential data, I'd never share that with y'all, off of all of the risk assessments that I sat in as a secondary, because I was trained in crisis protocols and risk assessment protocols like the staff member earlier was asking for while Candy was texting on the phone the whole time. Like I said about that though, so like I said about that though, I think we need to make sure that we're not making something into something is not. My flag is not sex. My flag is my culture. There might be other parts of that identity that do have to do with that, but there's just those same identities that have to do with heterosexuality. My flag represents people who love other people. If you are putting anything else into that, then that's on you. So, unlike other flags, Nazi flag, for example, Jeanette, I know that you said that the Nazi flag and the rainbow and the pride flag were pretty much the same. They're not. And don't give me that look, we have the video. Alright, I think I'm just the end. I'm so proud of y'all. Thanks for your patience. Alright, thank you.
Next we have Greg Britton with 3 items. And that's our last speaker.
You said 3. Welcome, Greg.
First item is the contract to the Boys and Girls Club. You are again subcontracting out the education to an outside organization and somebody monitoring what they're teaching. It's also unclear if someone looked at the agenda, as I did, what they're trying to accomplish. ELOP, whatever that is. I looked it up on the internet. It says expanded learning opportunities. Again, what does that mean? Is it remedial? Is it like teaching them to read and math if they don't get during the regular school day? Is it something else? A citizen or a parent would have no idea. It's $200,000. Total of the program is $4.7 million. That's a big chunk of your budget deficit. And is it whatever it's trying to accomplish, which as a member of the public I have no idea from looking at the agenda, is it effective? Are you monitoring this? Are you testing? Is your $4.7 million actually helping the students? I don't know. But that is not being done. It should be. So, on to mental health. The schools, as we've talked about many times, we've gone over the data, are doing a mediocre to lousy job at the basics of math and English and history and science. And now you propose to go into something vastly more difficult and vastly more complicated, and that is trying to deal with the human mind. And the people who go to school for many years, become a psychiatrist, psychologist, and even then it is a challenge to deal with somebody with mental health issues. That you're going to try to do this here in the school. And it is a tremendous opportunity to circumvent the parents. Under your policy, you're supposed to tell the parents about this, unless they decide that it would be psychologically or physically dangerous or harmful to the student. Particularly the psychological, that is a loophole that you can drive a Mack truck through to circumvent the parents. Now, if you're doing indoctrination in the classroom, at least there are textbooks, and there's a better way for your parents to find out what is going on. But if they're doing secret counseling to try to affect your child's mental health, and you don't even know what it is, this is a gross circumvention of parental rights and responsibilities that the courts have upheld repeatedly. In Mahmoud versus Taylor, the history and culture of Western civilization reflects a strong tradition of parental concern for the nurturing and upbringing of their children. And this program, whether it even could be effective, which I have serious doubts about it, you're going to improve the children's mental health, but you're circumventing the parents, and you shouldn't do it. If you do anything like this, if you're circumventing the parents, there should be notice to the principal or the superintendent or both that you've done this, so that can be followed up and checked on to see whether it's appropriate to circumvent the parents of the children's mental health.
Thank you, Greg.
18. After that. We are paying you as a taxpayer to teach the aforementioned math, science, history, culture, and so on, to prepare the students for a good job, to keep the republic, and to pass on the traditions and history of the nation. That's what we're paying you for. I don't care about a particular teacher's political or cultural opinions, and that's not why he or she is being paid with my and other taxpayers' money. As Valerie pointed out, when you have a teacher putting up whatever the cause is, it can be one that I agree with, it can be one that I disagree with. that carries a weight of authority that other government employees wouldn't have. So if you had a clerk at the DMV who had a flag or whatever, it wouldn't have that effect. You're also dealing with children who are more impressionable than an adult. It is not appropriate. And once you open up that desk to expressing personal opinions, you're opening up to any and all personal, political, or cultural opinions. You in essence made it a public forum for people, for the teachers to express whatever it is they want to express. So maybe, and most of the discussion is about the pride flag, which of course takes a position. So if you're an observant and believing Christian, Jew, or Muslim, you're saying that to those students who are believers, that your religion, what your parents and what your pastor, what your rabbi, what your imam have told you is wrong. And the school that's supposed to teach everybody, represent everybody, should not be doing that. We should have a politically and culturally neutral classroom focused on the things that we are paying you to teach, math, science, etc., that we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. All right, now we'll go on to board committee reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
Cora meets tomorrow, so we don't have anything tonight.
Anything to report?
For the Compact Club, we held the interactive dinner for the students and the community members, and are working on the mock trials, and then the next meeting for our committee is in 2 weeks.
My committee hasn't met and meets this Thursday, and I'll be going.
Mr. Cabral, do you have anything to report?
Yes, thank you. It was mentioned already, but I did want to talk about our reductions. We had let employees know, we met with them that March 10th was a date that we would be finalizing. And as was mentioned by at least one speaker today, notices have gone out starting this afternoon. We have a total of 27 certificated staff who are going to receive a notice. 21 classified staff who will receive a notice. And then additionally, we have a reduction of 12 administrators who also have already been notified through that process. That doesn't amount to the positions that have been reduced. That amounts to people who will be impacted with a layoff notice. We are continuing to look at how next year will look with less staff, and we are trying to be mindful of our employees who are being notified and who will continue to be with us through the rest of this school year, and be available for any information that we can provide. I continue to visit school sites through the office hours program, and I went to 2 sites last week. Tomorrow I will be at Kingsbury, and staff have taken the opportunity to come see me and ask questions that they wouldn't otherwise maybe have the opportunity to, and so that's been helpful just so that they have the information directly, and I'll continue to do that for the next several months. The last part of this process is for the board to take final action on our recommended layoffs on May 10th. Prior to that, employees will have an opportunity to get as much information that they need, and then on May 10th, there will be an agenda item for the board to take action on that will finalize the layoffs that that we're notifying folks about. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Cabral. Now moving on to business services consent items. Mr. Hill, do you have any changes or additions tonight?
No changes or additions, sir.
Is there a motion to approve or ratify business services consent items as listed under 13A through 13M?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Candy. Thank you, Patty.
Motion carried 5-0.
On to business services action items. Mr. Hill, any changes or additions?
No changes or additions tonight.
First, do I have a motion to approve and certify the second interim financial report, H251, per Assembly Bill 1200 and Ed Code 35035G. Move approval?
I'll second.
Thank you, Melissa. Any discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Adopt resolution number 2025-2026, acknowledgement of due diligence and authorization to commit, oh, I'm not supposed to read that, I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention. Is there a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-2026, acknowledgement of due diligence and authorization to commit funds, confirming projected reserves will be available in the general fund as of June 30th, 2026?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Karen.
Resolution 21.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve the 2026-2027 Redlands Unified Districts Transportation Plan? I'll move.
A second.
Any discussion? We'll call for the vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve the comprehensive school safety plans for each district school site as presented in the board packet in accordance with the California Education Code section 32280 through 32289? Authorize Jason Hill, Deputy Superintendent, Business Services, to sign related documents on behalf of the board.
I'll move. Second.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Patty. Any discussion?
I had a couple questions on that one. I was just wondering why in all of the safety plans we had two separate categories for medical emergencies. Why? Who makes this form? Is this a county form and we all just plug in our separate information? Or?
No, what we did is we took the state template and then sites input
So
their
it's a state
information.
template that has two medical emergency categories.
Yeah, and then we take, each site puts in their piece, and then we build the plan based on that.
Strange, we should consolidate it all to one, because the first one is only about Narcan. So I'm like, what about anaphylaxis, and what about choking emergencies? And then later on, I'm like, oh, there's another medical emergencies. It's weird. So that's
Yeah, this
a
is the
state
first
issue.
time we've used this template. If you look at prior plans from prior years, they were all different. So
Well, it's nice to be.
we put them all the same, and now, moving into the future, we'll probably modify them.
Yeah, maybe we can edit it to make more sense like that. I did have a question about what non-responders meant. Does that, I asked you, but I didn't get the answer. Do you know what that means? Does that mean families?
Yeah, the law requires that in an emergency, that situation, that we have two-way communication.
Oh, I see. So you
with the
respond
students.
back.
Yeah, so if we're not getting, like, the students not responding or not turning any work in, we would then call them because there's no other way to reach them.
And then doesn't it feel like 5 calendar days of a huge emergency is a long time? Is that the standard?
That was the requirement.
Usually we would do it sooner though, right?
5 calendar days, what?
So what they're saying is that,
people that we're in an emergency disaster situation.
so basically what we're saying is that if the district were to close due to an emergency, that we would make contact with a plan within 5 calendar days.
Maximum.
I have a question or comment. I noticed on many of the plans, the like principal designee was somebody who's no longer at that school. Will those be updated?
Correct.
Those pages will be updated before they.
Yes, this was just the plan that was submitted at the current moment and signed by the school.
Okay.
We constantly update this plan. It just has to be approved by their school site council by March 1st. And so that was the date that was required, and then it's presented to you after the school site council approves it.
Right, any other questions? All right, we'll call for the vote. And I enjoyed that. That was like over 700 pages this time. That's a lot.
Motion carried, 5-0.
All right. Now on to consent items under educational services. Mrs. Buckman, do you have any changes or additions?
No changes or additions tonight, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve educational services consent items as listed under 15A through 15G?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
No, just wishing good luck to our Just Varsity mock trial.
I had a question what VEA funding was. I forgot to ask you about that, Jason. What's that under,
Vocational education. So we get money specifically for vocational education.
from the state?
Yeah.
It's like
It's a resource that we get to.
annually, or it's grant money?
It's annually.
Annually.
I was just wondering, the total cost seemed kind of high for a one-night trip.
You're talking about B, the same one? 15 feet?
Yeah.
Well, it's funded by that. Is there only certain funds that can be spent on, or certain things that those funds can be spent on?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason. There is a reason for it. That's just one of the various things that you can spend on. We use the budget for different things.
Yeah, that does seem.
That's over $1,000 per student. Just thinking, maybe the funds could have been spread out more. What is that group? Never heard of it. Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
It's in ed services, I don't know.
Yeah. It's a state leadership conference that's held in Riverside. I believe it starts very early in the morning, so I think hotel accommodations are included in this.
Wait. They're getting a hotel to go to Riverside?
I have to double check on that, but I believe their leadership assembly starts at 7 a.m.
But it says, so who's attending? It says it's a group that's held at Redlands High School. Yeah, if we could just get more information.
Have a family, career, and community leaders of America.
To confirm that prior to taking action, because we might need to look it up. I don't know.
Yeah, the funding for vocational is coming through Perkins. Perkins comes to all our career technical education courses. So, not knowing specifically this, it's probably related to one of our career technical education courses.
Perkins?
Perkins, Carl Perkins, it's federal grant money that we get to service our CTE courses. That's where this money's deriving from, so it's probably related directly to one of those classes.
Yeah, I would like to get more.
It's not till the end of April if you want to get more information.
Am I wrong in this is being funded by a grant? It's a grant. It's not coming out of our.
Yeah, we still have a responsibility to use our grant monies in an appropriate manner.
It's not a grant money, right? You just said it was.
It's the Carl Perkins funding. It's
Right.
some people call
Right.
Carl Perkins grant.
Right.
It's federal funding that we receive every single year. You know, in my prior district in San Bernardino, so it's been 26 years that Carl Perkins is continuing to fund. So it's not a one-time money. They get it every.
It's not general fund, I think is what.
It's not general fund.
Are there only certain things that you can spend it on? I mean, is it?
Correct. We apply for it every year. They have to have rules like business advisory meetings. They have to have communication with sponsors. They have to have a plan within their career development class. I don't know this specific trip. Again, I'm just speaking about the Perkins dollars that are being used. So there is a plan for it that's usually approved by business partners, and then it's submitted back in the grant reporting deadline.
It's a 2-day conference, and so costs are either going to be travel to and from, which would mean it doubles the transportation cost, which could explain maybe why it's as high as it is, or it could include an overnight stay because events would start as early as 7 in the morning. Because they have the funds for that, then I would say, you know, it would be why they would say, let's go ahead and take advantage of the funds we have and stay overnight. We can confirm that though. Either way though, there would be more cost to this trip because traveling to and from, even if you have to do it twice, it's just going to double the cost.
Are you asking to pull B or get more information?
Well, am I asking to pull it or get more information?
To pull B. To pull B and get more information?
Yes.
Okay. So we all okay with pulling B and we'll vote on A through G without B.
You know, I just had one other comment regarding E. I really think that we should stop calling these wellness centers. That's my personal belief because wellness center is not quite accurate as to what the money is actually being spent on. It's a counseling room, a counseling center. And I just personally think that I would hope that our district would move forward just calling them what they actually are, because a wellness center, not in the educational system, but in the public eye, is thought of as like an all-encompassing, comprehensive type of medical and mental health care. And I don't know. I'm not saying I'm fine with voting on this issue, but that's just my comment on that. I think we should call them what they are. Because the public thinks of a wellness center as a comprehensive care center. That's just because they're not in the educational system. Educational system refers to a counseling center as a wellness center. But that's my general comment.
I think that was explained as the wording that's used in the actual
in the grant.
Yes. And I had asked this question, and I might have went to a straight one because here's where it says it's for 3 sites, but something else we got kept saying it was just for RHS.
Patty, can you confirm E for 3 sites, not just RHS?
Yes, we wrote the grant for 3 sites. The focus will be on Redlands High School. If there's anything left over, we'd also like to work on 2 of our middle schools that don't have that type of space. But if we didn't write it for up to 3.
Do you know how much of the grant money would be used on a consultant versus the actual work that needs to be done?
The majority of the funds are going to go to the infrastructure at Redlands High School.
Good.
Yeah, so we're gonna I gotta redo the motion. So, I'd like to amend the motion. And pull B, and it would be A through G with pulling B.
So moved.
Second. All right, we'll call for the vote. We'll bring me back. All right, now action items.
Motion carried 5-0.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. action items under educational services, Mrs. Buckmiller, any changes or additions?
No changes or additions in this section, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve educational services action items as listed under 16A through 16F?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I had a question on, between E and F, and I think the public has sometimes asks this also. E, the student is being suspended due to tobacco-related, expelled, not suspended, expelled due to tobacco-related issues, but then F, that student, they're being expelled for, harassment, threats, intimidations, something within that realm. But, the student E has to serve the expulsion all the first semester of next year, and student F gets the first semester suspended. So I was wondering, how is it determined that some students get a semester suspended and others don't?
Each case is individualized, so it really depends on the student, any prior occurrences, and, you know, basically what their prior behaviors have been. So it's just a little bit different for each student in each circumstance.
So would it be, for example, the tobacco student, would it be that there were other issues within that same category or different categories even?
It could be either.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? We'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Is there a motion to adopt the Hutton-Mifflin Hardcore Dual Math curriculum for dual language immersion kindergarten program?
So moved. Second.
How do you think you do that? Any discussion?
Thank you everyone who was on the committee on picking the curriculum that we need.
Ready to see this happen. All right, I'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Is there a motion to adopt the McGraw-Hill ELA Maravillas curriculum for the dual language immersion kindergarten program? Melissa, thank you, Patty. Any discussion? Call for the vote. We all get in?
Motion carried, 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve new administrative regulation 5141.5 mental health first reading?
Second.
Melissa, thank you, Patty. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest some edits on the second page, which is page 1112. I would suggest in the crisis referrals section that the first thing that the site administrator does or staff would be to contact the parents. I think that is the very first action. If a student is in crisis for mental health reasons, suicidal or whatnot, I believe parents should be the very first phone call. Here it's lined up with the site administrators and personnel are being notified without delay. And then second, when we're going to let the parents know. So personally, as a parent, I would want to be the first phone call. That way I can get over to the school immediately as soon as I could and take my child to a facility where I deem appropriate. I think that we should switch those and make number 3 be number 2 and switch those. That's my recommendation on that, because it looks like the parent is the second call. And then also,
I don't have that in front of me. What's the first call?
on page 1112,
I don't have it with me. I don't have it.
an agenda.
Oh, okay.
It's under crisis referrals, and so it's talking about the crisis referral. So when a student is in imminent risk of harm, homicidal, suicidal, etc., it doesn't say that, I'm just explaining. Staff shall follow the district's crisis response procedures immediately. That would be number 1. I agree. Number 2 should be what's stated as number 3, which is parent guardian notified. And it shouldn't say as soon as practicable. It should just be period. First call. Parents are called first.
But what if let me just interject, but what if it's a crisis, don't you think that, emergency personnel should be the first to be notified? What if they can't get a hold of the parent? I would hope that somebody would, call a medical professional to help my child before I'm able to get there. I don't think it's like, I would imagine these things are coming rather concurrently. Someone's calling, a medical health professional or, the emergency personnel while someone else is calling the parent. I don't know that those are necessarily, and what if, unfortunately, the parent could be the source of that, trauma? What would we do?
Okay, well, I do think that probably these 2 things would be ongoing simultaneously. However, I think that it should be written different because, yes, someone calls, another staff starts mobilizing our people to keep that student safe in the meantime. And I don't think it should be as soon as practicable. I just think it should be called immediately. The parent should be called immediately. And then, of course, these things are there's more than one staff involved, obviously, in a situation like this. One person could be staying with the student, calling their parents. The other site administrators can be, administration can get appropriate mental health personnel.
Well,
So,
number 1 lists, the first thing is they follow the district crisis response procedures. So my question is, what is that? Because we don't know what's included within the district's crisis response procedures. And my thought on number 3, like you guys were discussing, it should be simultaneously. And when you look up the word practicable, which I didn't realize was a word, is practicable, the synonym is feasible. So when feasible doesn't sound very urgent to me as a time frame to contact the parent or guardian.
So I could just talk about the process a little bit. So in theory, the way that it's written here is if a student is in crisis, immediate support is what is designed to happen. So that could include calling 911 immediately. It could include calling the nurse if they're on campus or a health official immediately. The administrator is included as an immediate call because in a crisis situation, all staff look for an administrator to give immediate direction and to oversee that everything is being done correctly. I don't think it's an avoidance of calling the parent as soon as possible. I think it's just making sure that the student is taken care of. And then calling the parent when practicable just means take care of the kid first, make sure they're safe, and then make sure that the parent is notified. It is not trying to delay notification. It's just an emphasis on making sure the student is that's kind of in theory the way that it should play out.
can you kind of see how the wording is without delay on the staff, you know what I mean, and then for the parents?
No, I just making sure that we kind of just play out the way that it would be. So when it says district crisis response procedures immediately, really, then it goes on to say the procedure contact site administrator, appropriate mental health person, that's kind of part of that crisis procedure. I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with parents, like calling the parents. Yes, please, we need to call the parents as soon as we can, which could be simultaneous, but not at the expense of making sure that, I think we would all agree, not at the expense of making sure that the kid is taken care of.
Well, I think number 1 covers that. So we're gonna follow the crisis response procedures immediately. Number 2, we're gonna call the parent. That's my suggestion. I wanted to finish with my suggestions and then maybe people can give their input. On the next page, under collaborative approach, I think that the second bullet point where it says disclosure to parent is likely to result in physical or emotional harm, I think that we should add significant there because that's very slippery slope, that emotional harm could be deemed as something very minor. I think that it needs to state that it's significant to the student. And I don't think that retaliation should be included there because retaliation again could be meaning grounding or taking away privileges or minor things that a parent may feel they wish to do, whether or not you agree with it. Retaliation could mean that's like a whole basket full of worms there. And I disagree with the third bullet point. I would get rid of that completely. And the next one that says notification, I would agree with the speaker that made the suggestion that once it says, if the student consents to services without the parent guardian notification, the professional shall document the clinical justification for this decision. And I would add, and notify the superintendent of such decision. Just so that we have oversight of it actually is a very reasonable reason to exclude the parent.
Okay, it's hard to remember.
I think I'm done with my suggestions on that policy.
Okay.
Yes.
So, discussion, can we go back to the discussion regarding the crisis referrals ordering? Because that was one of my areas I wanted to talk about. Again, maybe the district's crisis response procedures would spell it out more, but we don't know what that is. And my suggestion was going to be that the site administration and appropriate mental health personnel shall be notified without delay and take responsibility for ensuring the parents are notified, something like that, where someone is designated to do that, because what I've heard from quite a few parents actually is that once they do get informed of a serious concern with their child, the reason they get informed late and the reason given is that staff were just too busy or there weren't enough staff or it just slipped their mind. Like, it seems like a designated person to do it that knows, hey, my main concern here is I need to find out and notify the parents so that it doesn't slip through the cracks.
We had site administration shall notify parent or guardian and the mental health crisis team.
No, what it's saying is that
without delay. It says without delay.
The employee is the one notifying site administration and appropriate mental health personnel. So then I'm saying of those people, someone could be responsible for the parental part.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure someone is sitting with a student and
but when you say I'm sure they are, it doesn't always happen. We want it to, but like I said, what I hear from parents is they're given reasons from staff on why it didn't happen. I'm not talking about like when a child's suicidal, but serious incidences that
this is a crisis. This is the crisis
right,
is what we're speaking about.
Which
So
is
they are
more
suicidal.
important than, strengthening by another student. I would say this is more important.
What I was saying is, number 2 says, the site administration and appropriate mental health personnel shall be notified without delay. Somebody's gonna notify, but let's say in there that site administration shall notify a parent or guardian immediately after they find out. I mean,
Yes, that's
what I said.
That's my suggestion.
yeah.
I think it's fine the way it is, but I can see where we're under the impression that site administration is the one doing all of this. This is probably coming to a counselor. The counselor is notifying site administration and appropriate mental health personnel without delay. There are multiple people that are, involved in this, so the site administration would know, let our superintendent know. Someone is calling mental health professionals or emergency responses, and someone is calling parents. I think that's played out pretty well in this description.
Except that it says as soon as practicable, which means feasible or.
Well, yeah, because what if for some reason this child is in danger and, part of the reason they're having a crisis situation is because of abuse from a parent. I mean, I would imagine, and CPS needs to be called as well, and there needs to be, if there's a 2-parent household, if there's, it depends on the situation.
Well, yeah, I'd rather see a clear-cut policy and then obviously either note it that there could be exceptions, but I'd rather have the clear-cut policy be the standard. That's my input on that. And then I had over, Candy, you mentioned about the second bullet on the next page.
Page 1113.
What was your comment on that page?
My comment was on the second bullet, under collaborative approach. I would say that disclosure to the parent is likely to result in significant, I would add significant there, because without that, it's like emotional harm is pretty, could be really anything. And I would also recommend that we remove retaliation, because that also could just be, oh, my parent's gonna ground me, they're gonna retaliate in some way, and there's the loophole where disclosure to the parent doesn't have to be done.
Okay, so yeah, those are examples which should, I think, I agree, they should reflect back up to the actual definition of when a professional would determine that the parent shouldn't be contacted. It does say significant psychological and or physical danger, so the examples probably be tweaked a little to indicate that they're significant, because yes, retaliation may or may not, it depends on the definition for the child and what that means. I mean, maybe the solution to this is, I also have the same concern about oversight, some provision that the mental health professional that's making this assessment, that there's some oversight to that important decision.
If I may, assessing the potential threat is something that your site wouldn't necessarily do. That's why we would involve health professionals or even law enforcement to go into the home to make that assessment.
What portion are you speaking to?
So when you say significant, to have a site person make that assessment, it may not be the person that will should make that assessment.
Well, in this policy, it would be made by the assigned counselor.
Correct. That's why the immediate contact to the parent may be delayed, if that makes any sense.
You might be confusing what we were talking about on the prior page, maybe? Because the prior page was about notifying parents, and then this page is about who determines and why do they determine that the parent should not be informed that their child's in therapy? I mean, I want your input on this.
It's a longer discussion. There are very good reasons at the site why they may not contact the parent immediately, is what I'm getting at. And it may have to do with who's assessing the potential threat to the child, if that makes any sense. So for example, if a child says that they feel either retaliation or harm at home, we would not make that assessment. That would have to be done specifically by law enforcement or CPS.
But here the policy is saying that it's the perceived retaliation, right? So, it should be stated, it couldn't just be the counselor says, well, the parent is going to retaliate on the child by removing their cell phone privileges. So do you understand what I'm trying to say is retaliation can mean very little to very great harm. So that's why I don't feel like it should be there, unless you want to leave that there and just saying substantial or damaging retaliation. I just think retaliation shouldn't be a reason there unless you want to add language to clarify what that retaliation means. I just don't like the idea of having a loophole of, well, my parents are gonna ground me if you tell them, and.
Hey, excuse me, Candy, we've already taken 10 minutes for this discussion. Would you like this to be pulled so that you can get more information, get more input, more?
No, I already said
I definitely would like to talk to Rudy more because it sounds like he's on a different track of what is in here. So I really think that needs to be discussed further.
Okay. I mean, we can pull it and.
I don't agree that it needs to be pulled. I actually think it was pretty thorough. I appreciated everything in it.
There's a lot of work was done on it. And it's just, there's some areas that legality and ethics that it needs to be tightened up, in my opinion.
Would we pull I and J because they are together?
Yeah, so the options right now are to consider the current motion and then to vote it down. If there's or vote yes. Or change the motion to include the edits that have been suggested, or pull the item. Those are the three options.
I don't agree with pulling it just because I feel like we're gonna get into an issue where we're worried about, definitions and, this is just gonna go on for a really long time and it's gonna be extended. I think it's a really good policy and I think it's pretty thorough. I think this is just like micromanaging small details on, language. And I don't think we should be pulling it. I would like to vote on it.
Yeah, I didn't even have time to go through all my.
Would you like to change the motion with the additions that Candy said, or do you want to pull it? Would you like to?
So it can't be passed as a first read and then work on some of these suggestions?
The issue with passing it as a first read and then working on the issues, it could change the intent, or it could change, some of the language would, change the direction a little bit, which would then make it a first read again. So if we're gonna have some changes that will do that, the suggestion would be to pull it, rework the majority of the board agrees to pull it, then pull it, we rework it, and then bring it back as a first read after it's been reworked.
Who's going to rework it? An motion then?
Yeah, we would, my suggestion would be, if we're gonna pull it, is to have at least no more than 2 board members agree to meet so that we can look at it. And the committee, not the committee, but like Adam's team has already looked at it. This is what we're seeing right now. So now we need to finalize it. And if 2 of you are open to meeting, then we would set that up. And the goal would be to have it back here for you.
I would love to be on the committee.
I would be okay with that, but I really would like to ensure that Rudy is on it is reviewing it.
He's available.
You also want the original
I'll do
committee?
it, but that's the thing, I don't wanna put this,
Yeah.
if we're gonna,
I'd like to be on that committee.
I would really appreciate us just pushing it through, but if we're not going to, then yes, I'm gonna have to. Then I don't think that that's a good idea. I don't think that we're gonna get the differing viewpoints that we want.
Put it into the map. So we could just vote on each edit and see what.
Yeah, that's the other option, is to just to extend our 10-minute time limit and just hash it out right now.
I think
Let's
it's a
call
very
for a vote and see
important,
what happens.
it's a very important policy, and it's long overdue, and it's long. You can tell that it's important because it's covering a lot of information. Most policies are, what, 1 or 2 pages?
I'm not saying that it's not important.
Well, I just don't wanna push through, just get it done. I think it's very important.
I'm not saying we're doing that either. Would you concede and let Melissa be on that committee and Candy?
I would rather be on it than Candy because I've given some input and I am a licensed clinical social worker, so my vote would be for me to be on it.
Candy, would you concede and let Jeanette be on that committee?
I think we should just do edits now. But if we're not in agreement to that, then sure.
Well, I will amend the motion, to have it pulled, actually, we should vote on it. Do a different motion. Okay,
Amend your motion.
Pull the motion, because she's the one that did it first. Pull it.
Call for the vote and then go.
Call for the
We're just
vote.
talking about the AR, correct?
We're going on the AR.
If it passes, then we go for the discussion. If it doesn't pass, then we go back.
But is this vote include the?
No, this only includes the AR, yes.
Motion not carried, with the nays being President Render, Board Member Wilson, and Board Member Olson, and the ayes being Vice President Holohan and Clerk Ayala Quintero.
Okay, can we direct superintendent to, that reconvene that committee and include Melissa Ayala Quintero and Janelle Wilson on that committee?
Yes, we can do that. Agreed.
And so are we gonna put J?
Needs to be a motion to do that.
So moved. Are you mentioning? Oh, anybody. So I'll make a motion to pull it.
Why do we
have
want
to
to
vote, I guess.
Why do we want to pull a board policy?
What I'm understanding is because AR, is related to the BP that we're talking about next, and since we're going to go to the committee again for the AR, my understanding is that there's, an ability now to go, to have the same committee look at board policy before anybody takes action on it. And what I would suggest, if that's what the board wants to do, anybody that has edits that they brought would give to Jeanette and to Melissa so that they can look at them together, in that committee.
The board policy is a lot better than the AR, so.
I'll second that, Judith. So thank you for that motion. All right, call for the vote.
Just to be clear, I'm changing the motion to pull. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
worded, how's it worded?
It says approved board policy.
Motion to pull new board policy. The motion itself is changed.
Thank you, we saw it.
Motion is carried with the ayes being President Runner, Board Member Wilson, Board Member Olson, and the nays being Vice President Holohan and Clerk Ayala Quintero.
All right, moving on to human resources consent items. Mrs. Brewer, do you have any changes or additions?
No changes or additions, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve human resources consent items as listed under 17A through 17D?
I'll move.
Second. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Gina. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question on A, on page 1120, it said 2024-2025,